Next up is Toni Brown on Fempreneur Coach Connection, and she's talking the money is in the message. She's a tough love brand strategist and designer that focus on messaging and strategy as a basis of design. She builds personal brands that transform corporate Black women from employee to entrepreneur. She also heads a brand and web design agency in Baltimore, Sky Media Group, where she works with nonprofits and other mission based organizations. You'll love it as she brings the tough love to your brand message. Have you ever looked in the mirror and wanted something more? More in business, home life, relationship life? Say word if you agree. Word. In 2019, I created a business for coaches to market in this wacky way, virtual events, all with a 7 to 7 job. I'm a full-time nurse, by the way. And like you, there were just not enough hours in the day. My partner was feeling alone, and generally, this wasn't fun anymore. But then I realized I needed to build myself back up, mind, body, soul, and even my business. So I created a show that does just that, interviewing all types of coaches, life, wellness, fertility, career, financial, wealth, and business. Join me on my journey with some of the best coaches who want to empower other coaches to live their best lives and build businesses that fulfill them. My name is Nicole Beatty, and this is Fempreneur Coach Connection. Welcome to the show, Toni. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you
Good.
doing?
I'm
Good.
good. I'm good.
Good. I'm glad. Look, I'm so excited to have you on because I love talking about branding because it's a lot more than what I originally realized. So I love talking to experts like you that really explains what a branding is, like what that means.
hmm hmm Yeah, I enjoy talking about branding. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself an expert, but I do know a little something about something.
Well, I think you're the expert because you have a company. This is what you do. So you are the expert. And speaking of your company, I'd love to know kind of how you got into this because, I mean, is this something that you just are like, I'm the branding queen. I know what I'm talking about. I'm all about messaging. Is that how it worked, or how did you come to where you are now?
No, I have a legal background, so I spent 20 years in corporate America, in different law firms and legal departments. And when I went to, it was in college, that was kind of when the internet was being born. So that's when those beginning social media companies were out, like Friendster and MySpace. And I really loved just the immediacy of what would happen when you changed code on the page. I would add HTML on my account. I would add different photos and music. And I just love how something that I created or did in the back end showed up on the front end. But at the time, being a designer or anything like that, that was not on my radar. I had training in business and a law. So being a designer was not in my plan. Some years later, though, I would search online for different places that I wanted to go. So I would go to bed and breakfasts a lot, and I would go on their website, and you would think that these bed and breakfasts would have elaborate websites because the homes were so beautiful, the bedrooms were beautiful, but the websites really were awful. And I was thinking, I was like, I wonder what would happen if their website was better. I wonder if this is something that I could do. And while I didn't have any clients and I didn't have any bed and breakfast clients, I just started to kind of kindle or rekindle just my creative thought and process about I want to do something with the web. I want to design something, but I had no training.
Mhm.
So I bought my first laptop and I just started tinkering around and I bought Photoshop and or the Adobe Suite, Creative Suite, and just tried different tutorials to try to figure out how to use Photoshop. It was such a daunting task in the beginning.
Yes,
Oh
yes.
my goodness. I thought I would
I mean, look, I'm still
never.
learning. I'm still learning, but
Yes,
okay.
me too. And then I tried different website builders like Wix and Drupal and um, Dreamweaver, but and I none of them really stuck until I discovered WordPress or figured out how to use that. And that's how everything really grew. So at the time, I was a designer. I wouldn't consider myself a brand. I was not a branding person at the time, but I didn't realize that I was helping companies and people build their images for the purpose of having a better business and for going into business. So what we've come to know as branding, that's kind of what that is.
Gotcha. I would love to know what your definition of branding is because, it's not the logo, it's not,
Mhm.
those sort of things, but the pretty colors, at least that's what I thought it was initially standing out. So, what's your definition of what branding is?
Right. So it's not my definition. It's what's defined by people who came before me that really have skin in this branding game. But from what I've come to understand and appreciate is that branding is the perception that your audience has about you and your company. So it's not the company that creates the brand, the company influences the brand. And there are different factors and features that companies put into play, different types of communications that companies put into play in order to influence the perception that the audience have of their company. So influential factors such as colors and fonts, your messaging, commercials, the people that you use or partner with, all of these outside factors and even internal factors contribute to the brand. It contributes to how an audience views your company or you as a person. That's what the brand is. So we're not creating brands, we are in packaging what communications and a company's vision and goals and things like that to create this brand identity or this brand. So it's not something that we create, it's something that's influenced.
So in other words, I mean, somebody has quote unquote a brand. They already have it before they come to you, right? They're not coming to you like create me and who I am. It's really you have it already together, but Tony's job is to kind of put it all together in a message. Is that right, or am I a little off on that one?
I feel that anytime someone has been marketing themselves as something or have services or selling a product, they already have a brand. The audience is already perceiving them as something or someone. So they already have it. Anytime you put yourself out there and say, I want to offer this service, I want to sell this product, your audience is already perceiving who they think you are. So when somebody comes to me, I'm looking to refine that image or to align that image with what my client wants to be versus what their audience thinks they are. So I'm trying to bridge the gap between those things so that what my clients want to be comes up accurately with what how the audience perceives them to be.
Gotcha. So I'll just say this, I've taken a look at your website and kind of gone from your past clients. And what I felt in looking at them, they were polished, put together. They were whatever they sold. I don't even know what coaches they were. I was just like, okay, sold because it gave me a feeling of them being professional. It gave me a feeling of, and that's why, you said perception for branding for me it's a feeling like if I
Hmm.
see an image or if I see a package or website whatever the case may be I kind of get a feeling about you and
Hmm.
if it's something like mess in the background or hair out of put craziness all over the place I'm like ooh she ain't get how's she
Yes.
gonna coach me on anything or whatever the case may be so but either way check
Right.
out Tony's website y'all because I think it's a great representation of what
Thank
branding
you.
can do for people I'm just gonna say that out loud
Thank
but I
you.
do have a question do you think when people are coming up with especially like online coaches or online business do you think it should be focused on the person or should we focus on like the business? Does that make sense? What do you think?
Mhm.
Like, what do you think of that?
Yes, I was just having this conversation yesterday, and I think it depends on how you want to be viewed and what you want to be known for. So, and I'm going to talk about my journey. And I'm going to say that there's no definitive way to do this. However, somebody chooses to do it is right for them. But I'm going to talk about my transition. So, when I started my branding agency, I never had a plan for it to be like this big agency. I always knew that I wanted it to remain small. I focused on the work. And so I spent years just focusing on the work. I did not get professional pictures when I started my business until years later. So I really was like a faceless business person behind the scenes. And my clients will come to me after they, saw my website or they saw some work that I did, and they will come to me. But it's not the work that really sold people. It's just who I was. It was who I was, how I was explaining things, how comfortable I made them feel, how I let them know that I understood what their problem was and how working with me could fix that problem. Years later, and I always had an inkling to want to do more and come from behind my computer, but because of what my life was like at the time, I couldn't really do that. And so my life kind of evened out, I was able to come from behind my brand and in my business. And in 2019, that's when I started Brand Coach Toni, which is really just me. And so even though I am still a designer, now I'm helping, or I work with women who want to do the same. They want to come from behind the thing that they have been behind. And usually it is their corporate job. Usually they have been behind the scenes, helping other companies grow and make money, but they have more of a vision. They want to have more impact. They want to do more things other than working inside of a company. Not that working for the company is bad, but they want to come from behind it. And so it's at that point where personal branding comes into place. They don't have products. They have no, at least for the time being, they don't have any interest in having products. They want to take their expertise, experience, knowledge, talents, passion, and package all that up into a personal brand, the business of them. And so that's where the difference is. So I feel that whenever you want to teach, empower, educate, or, use what you have to impact or change someone, that's when personal branding becomes relevant. For instance, Pepsi as a company is not a person. The CEOs change, and different things happen behind the scenes. So Pepsi doesn't have, a person whose name is Pepsi. What you have is you have different executives inside of Pepsi who may want to speak or write books or do things like that, and those people represent themselves. They don't necessarily represent the company. And so personal branding becomes relevant when that is what you want to do, when you want to use yourself and your influence to impact other people.
Do people kind of come to you already knowing, look, I want to do the personal branding thing, or do you kind of have to coach them to kind of say, where are you going? Which path are you wanting to do? Because I know for me, I was very much like, Pimpreneur Online. There's a girl behind here too, but I didn't really want my name out there at all. Do you
Mm.
have people that come to you like that? And do you have any advice for people that are kind of really getting behind the company and starting to do like be more personal in the branding?
Yeah, I think that because personal branding is one of the hot words or hot terms or phrases that have been out, that they know that they want to have a personal brand. They know that they want to use something, their vision, passion, their interest, and to monetize it some way, or impact people in some way. So they know they don't have products, and they know that they want to serve. Either they want to, speak, write, coach. They want to take themselves and use it to impact other people. Um, can somebody have a personal brand without showing their face? I think it's kind of counterintuitive because the word personal, the base word is person. And
Mm.
so the person, who is the person if they're not showing up in the business? Who are they? And you find that because consumers are savvy and they want to it's not just about, like, a product. It's about their experience with the product, their experience with the person. People want experiences these days. And it used to be that companies were the only entities that could deliver an experience. But now we're seeing that people are delivering experiences for their audience. And so there has to be somebody behind that experience. Somebody is spending, thousands of dollars or whatever. They want to be able to speak to the person. They don't want a representative. They don't want a customer service representative. They want that person. They want to be able to be, make that human connection, because the human connection is what sells people. Even when people have, products, um, and it's the story that they cultivate with products that gives it like a human connection. Like one of my
Yes.
favorite companies is Lush, and they create a story with their products. And even though there is no Mr. Lush or Miss Lush, they kind of humanize their products. And when you don't have products to humanize, then you need to be human yourself.
Ooh, oh, okay. Goosebumps on that last statement. That quote is now yours. When you don't have
Okay.
products to humanize, you need to humanize yourself. I love that. Let's put it in quotes and give her credit for that. That was a really good one. So let's kind of go into what your foundations and your philosophy of branding is. So brand strategy is necessary to build a business as a blueprint is to a building. Can you explain more about that?
Yeah, so when you're building a house, there is a blueprint. When you're constructing a building, there's a blueprint. If without a blueprint, how do you know what goes in each room? How do you know how big a room is? How do you know that the bathroom won't be built in the kitchen? How do you know? You don't. And so that's the same thing with brand strategy. Brand strategy lays out how your business or brand is going to be different than other businesses. How are we going to construct or package this person in order that the impact that they want to make is actually felt? And without that, you're just doing anything. You're just kind of grasping at straws, trying to figure out, is this going to be the thing that gets me the clients I want, or is this going to be the thing, or is that going to be the thing? But brand strategy doesn't do that. It helps you to strategize the components of your brand and your vision and your goals that are marketable. So that can be a message. A message, for example, I focus on brand messaging. Your message is one of the easiest ways for you to connect with the people who really will vibe with you. If you don't have a message and if you're just talking about any old thing, how will people know if you're the person that they need to work with? And so messaging as a part of strategy is very important. And there are other components like brand positioning uh, that that I also kind of touch on too. But messaging and strategies for getting out that message is like key, because your message isn't, everything that you say about your business. There are, core communication pieces that you should have in your message, like your core values, your mission, in order to be able to convey and influence the people that you want to influence.
So I literally am, as I'm thinking about this blueprint, like this is an actual living, breathing document that we're
Mhm.
creating. Is that what you're telling us to do?
And B, I'm actually a part of a group where brand strategy is not delivered in a document. Brand strategy can be a workshop. It can be you sticky noting ideas. It can be a lot of different things. For me, it's a report. I think it's important for because just like with a blueprint is not just conceptualized in somebody's head. A blueprint is a document that lays out everything. And that's how I feel about brand strategy and messaging, is that it's a document that lays out everything. So I deliver mine in a report, but it doesn't have to be delivered in a report though.
Okay, so as you're working with clients, you're creating a report for them, talking about their messaging, talking about their positioning should be
Mhm.
in this blueprint. What other things do you think you should include in that blueprint as you're creating your brand strategy?
Well, your audience avatar. So people say, always start with your why. But I've learned that starting with who you're talking to is just as important, because your why should really be tied to your audience. And if you don't haven't identified your audience or your avatar, then who are you talking to? You're just talking in the air. So part of strategy is also identifying who your audience is so that you can create communications directly for your audience. Also, strategy. So marketing strategies can be a part of the brand strategy, which makes sense because how after you have your messaging, how are you going to get it out? It doesn't have to be something separate. And I like to say that that document, what my clients have described the document as their brand Bible. So they continue to use it even years later. And it really sets the tone for everything else that they do in their business. And sure, you can add on to brand strategy, but you at least need a foundation. Just like with that building that needs that blueprint or that needs that foundation. Homes have a foundation, buildings have a foundation. Brand strategy is the foundation for brand development.
It's funny because as you're talking, I'm writing these down because I'm like, you know what? Have I ever really created a brand strategy in the way that she's talking about that blueprint? Because it's a lot more again than maybe a brand kit in Canva, right? We
Oh, for
we keep
sure.
thinking we go
Yes.
back to logo. I mean, do you include that as well? I mean, or you're kind of like, we don't even go there with logos and things as it talks about brand strategy. Do you talk about that as well?
Yeah, I actually have a four-step process, and in that process, after strategy, visual identity is next because the
Mm.
strategy actually informs the design. And it's interesting that we're having this conversation because I actually just signed up for a workshop to be able to explain and really formulate how brand strategy informs design. Because you would think that, how can words shape how um, something is created, but when you translate that messaging to design, it gives your design more context. So if you are, somebody who loves plants and you are a life coach and you want to create like a natural space where people are comfortable and things like that, and we're having that conversation, when it comes to your visual identity, I might say, maybe the color should be green. Maybe they should give off the feeling of being comfortable. Maybe those graphic elements should be leaves or hands or plants or this or chairs or something like that. So it's important that strategy be used in design because otherwise you're just creating the same type of things that other people in your industry are creating. So one industry that uses a lot of the same type of design elements is the beauty industry, lipsticks and um, makeup and hair and things like that. But if you have brand strategy and you're talking to a stylist and she says, I'm really into healthy hair and I create my own oils and butters for hair, then when it comes to the design and building healthy hair, the design might be pictures of oils and again, seeds and leaves and bowls with coconut oil and different type of hair products. So it goes from being just a woman with a logo with long flowing hair to a
Mhm.
logo that might have like more of a natural feel.
Oh, you're overwhelming me a little bit here because I'm like, wait, okay,
I'm
hold on.
trying not to.
I'm like, wait, no, and not a bad overwhelm. It's a good overwhelm because I mean, you're literally telling me, okay, brand strategy, what we talked about, the messaging, the positioning, the audience avatar, the marketing drives our visual identity. I mean, quite frankly,
Hmm.
when I started out, I created a logo first with some pretty
Me too.
colors. That's the very
Me
first.
too.
I didn't think about
Me
no
too.
audience avatar. I didn't think about no messaging. So,
Hmm.
I mean, like for all those who are kind of in that boat that we are, like, look, we started off with a logo and that was it.
Yeah.
As I'm kind of getting older in business, it's more like, okay, hold on. Rebranding is something that's coming up for me.
Hmm.
And you're telling me to do it completely different. Not just like let me change up the logo a little bit. I mean, you're telling me to go to that strategy, that blueprint.
Hmm.
I love everything about that. I hope everybody's liking this,
I
commenting
hope
on
so
this
too.
because this makes sense. I'm telling you right now.
Hmm.
Let's go to the next one. So, because we'll stay right there in that blueprint forever. I'm just
I
gonna
know.
say that out loud. Uh, so, speak up in your business by cultivating your brand message. We talked a little bit about this,
Hmm.
but what do you mean by this?
Um, yeah, so when it comes to messaging, there are a few key elements that you should focus on. I like to say it is the five W's and H. So who, what, where, when, why, and how. If you can answer those questions, then you have the foundation of a good brand message. And you can fill in those questions with anything. Usually when you start them with the why, it's why am I getting started? Why do people should people care about what I'm doing? Um, why am I in business? Um, or with a what am I offering? What challenges am I solving? What products am I coming up with? Like, if you can develop messaging around just those fundamental questions, and of course, having some type of organization, you don't want to just answer every why question, every what question, but within the parameters of what does your audience need to know in order for them to identify that you are the best person to work with. So I call it an audience focused message. So the messaging is not how great I am and look at what I can do. The message is how can I assist you? How can I improve your life? So the messaging becomes more about your audience than it is about you. And I think that that's one of the misconceptions about messaging is that people feel like messaging is all about them and how great they are and their services and what they're going to deliver. Whereas if you have an audience focused message, instead of talking about, how great your services are, then you would talk about the results. How have others talked about what you do? That becomes a part of your messaging too. So when you use your message in that way, you're speaking up in your business. You're not just letting, whatever comes to you formulate how you're going to communicate. You're having an active part in developing the right message for your business.
So, for anyone who's kind of starting out, they're kind of like, well, I don't know. I don't know. You
Yes.
really feel like people should really kind of get in business and start serving before they kind of go to really talk about their brand messaging, or should you really have a brand message starting out?
I think that you should start out with a brand message, because your having a brand message will help you to be able to identify the right opportunities. So that, for instance, if you have identified who your audience is, then you know that your audience isn't everyone, and you won't waste your time working with the wrong people. When you identify your audience, you will only spend time cultivating relationships and creating content for the right people. So I absolutely think that you should start a brand with the message, and that you should start a brand with strategy. I've seen the opposite. I used to do the opposite. And that's how I know the difference between having a strategic brand and having a haphazard brand. You will waste more money on a haphazard brand because you're just trying to figure it out. You're just trying to do this and that and this and that and wasting money. Whereas if you set things up strategically, then you can really plot the course and you can plot your investment too.
Gotcha. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, especially when you're first getting started, that messaging, that blueprint can start with just audience avatar. That can be one of the basic things, even if you're not sure about the other stuff, but you can at least get going with who do you want to work with, the type of people you want to work with, and start formulating your message based on that. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah, kind of, sort of. And then you wanted the foundation of that is focused on how you intend to serve too. So
Okay.
audience and that foundation, they really go together. Um, the other thing is that I don't recommend people creating their own brand strategy, because you don't know what
Mm,
you're looking for. You don't know what components of strategy makes the most sense for you. And if you're an accountant and you're trying to create your brand strategy, how are you doing that? Your focus is numbers. You're a numbers person. So why are
okay.
you creating your brand strategy? So yeah, what's needed is guidance in asking and the right questions, and helping you elicit those answers and putting together those communications that really target your audience. I
Okay.
always favor letting people do what they do best and then hiring everybody else for the rest.
Oh, there's another quote. There you go. But no, but it does make sense. If that's not your lane, if you're, a designer or website designer, building a strategy, a brand strategy may not be your thing. You do code. Stay
Hmm.
in your lane. Let somebody like Toni come in and really get your strategy together for your brand. So I do like that a lot. Third one, identify and create audience focused content. This is
Hmm.
huge. This is
Hmm.
huge, which I like to preach as well. So just let us know from a brand strategy perspective what this means for you.
So once you identify your audience avatar, you have to give them a life. You have to give them a you have to give them a reason for why they are coming to you. And then what happens during that interaction that either leads them to you or away from you. And I have a formula like that I like to call PhDs. The first with creating audience focused content is focusing on their pain points. So what challenges are your ideal or is your audience having at the moment? Your ideal client, what challenges are they having? What keeps them up at night? What have they tried to solve on their own that they just can't do? What are their emotions behind trying to solve that? Is it an internal problem or is it an external problem? Whatever their pain points are, you want to identify that. Then you want to identify their hesitations. What will stop them from working with you? Do they need to um, make more time? Are they unsure if the investment is a good investment? Do they think that it'll actually work for them? So those hesitations become part of your sales strategy, in that you should map out all those hesitations or objections and then what your response would be to those. The next thing that when you create an audience focused content is to focus on the desires. What does your audience really want? What does your ideal client really want internally and externally? How do they really want to feel? How do they want to be viewed by their peers? What will the ideal outcome look like for them once their problem is solved? And then solutions. What is your specific solution to each pain point, each, and how will you get their desires fulfilled with your solution? So that is my formula for creating audience focused content, is identify their pain points, mapping out those hesitations, and then your response to those hesitations. What are their desires? What does your ideal audience or client really want? And what is your specific solution to solve their problem?
You just laid out like all of what to do right there. I hope everybody was really taking notes and really going step by step, like, okay, this is my next content. Because once you get that content, I mean, quite frankly, that content is universal. Once
Hmm.
you're like, okay, these are their pain points, it becomes universal content, that pillar content that people talk about, and can be used to be repurposed. So
Hmm.
now
Yes,
you
yes.
have the messaging, people continually see the messaging. I don't know if the word is the same messaging, but you continually hit them with some of the same pain points. It doesn't go away, it doesn't
No, it
change
doesn't.
very much. So you're
Hmm.
able to repurpose that and make it work for you. So you're not working that
Yeah,
hard for a bunch of content.
exactly. That's so true.
Yeah. So, oh my goodness. Thank you so much for that. I'm telling you, all of that was great advice. And I really hope that you guys take heed to that. Let's get into our next segment with your best online business advice for online coaches after this brief break. Okay, so this segment is living your best online business life. And I want to ask Toni, what is your biggest and best advice for online business owners?
To define your brand in the beginning before you even jump out there. You will get a lot of there are it's information overload when it comes to developing your brand and your business. So it's good for you to define your brand, what you want to be known for, how you want to serve, who you want to serve, what value that you want to create in others, what's special about you, and just at minimum understanding those things so that if you, for instance, don't have the money to invest in a brand strategist off, in the beginning, you can at least begin to formulate that brand in a way where your audience can perceive you in the right way.
Gotcha. I mean, all these little gems. I really do hope that you're writing, and it's coming at me fast. So I'm trying to write down as quickly as I can. I'm just not even gonna lie there. But so and you see my pen in my hand. If you're not watching, you're listening. I got my pen in my hand. So sorry if you heard me scribble scrabble it really quick. But our next segment is Let's Connect. So this segment's all about connecting and making connections with our guests and the audience. Toni, who would you like to pull into your inner circle?
Black corporate women who want to use their experience and skills, passion, interests to turn that into a personal brand. So that could look like an executive who wants to impact low income families, or it could look like a woman who wants to be an author and write books that empower women. So, but she's still working a corporate job, but she wants to also have, I don't want to say a side hustle because that's not the right terminology, but they want to expand their brand. They want to expand their impact beyond working at their 9 to 5.
Gotcha. I don't like the side hustle terminology
No, I don't
myself.
either.
This is my life. This is a stream of income. This is not no side hustle. I'm just gonna say that out
Hmm.
loud. So let us know in the comments if you know someone who fits this bill. They are in corporate. They are starting to build their personal brand. Let us know in the comments. Tag them. If that's you, say, Toni, that's me. I need your help. Because remember, Toni said you should not be building a brand strategy on your own. You really
Hmm.
should solicit the help of someone who knows what they're doing. And she already said she gives you a whole report that you're going to
Hmm.
use for years to come. So you need to make
Yes.
sure that you contact Toni. And Toni, let us know where we can find you. So, obviously we'll tag you and all the things, but we want people to know where they can find you.
Brand Coach Toni everywhere. So that's and Sky Media Group. That's on Instagram and .com as well. And it's SKYE
Gotcha. Okay. So I am so grateful, Toni, that you could be here on this show today. And honestly, that I could, quite frankly, write all this stuff down and get all this from you because again, you are an expert. You've shown today that you're an expert on this. So I definitely appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Thank you. So I'd like to thank our guest for today's show, Toni Brown. We love to have you as a guest on this show. So if you're an online coach in any niche, we would love to have you go to fempreneuronline.com/guest to apply to be on the show. And so at the end of every episode, we say, who's next? Okay, cut. I only bring her back on and let me unmute her really quickly. All right. So if you're watching this after, this is like the after show. We went over way more. It doesn't matter because it was such a good episode. Uh,
Oh,
and what we're
good.
going to do is we're going to do the three promo things. And what
Okay.
I'm going to do, Toni, is I'm going to get off of the screen and I'm going to mute myself so nothing in my background gets on the audio recording. Just say each phrase and just take a pause, and you can start at any point after I mute myself. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Let me put you on and take.
Hi, I'm Toni Brown, and you're listening to the Fempreneur Coach Connection. Hi, I'm Toni Brown, and you're watching the Fempreneur Coach Connection. Hi, I'm Toni Brown, and we're talking all about how the money is in the message, only on the Fempreneur Coach Connection.
Yay. Okay. Awesome. So I'm going to end the broadcast now. This is the